Biliyor musun? Erken rezervasyon başladı. Yazın en renkli fırsatları cyprusparadise.com'da. %40, %50 hatta %60'a varan kaçırılmaz indirimler. Erken rezervasyon yap, uçak bileti fiyatına paket tatili al. Uygun fiyata Kıbrıs tatilinin adresi cyprusparadise.com. Zaman akıp gitmeden acele edin. Bir bakmışsınız yaz gelmiş. Cyprus Paradise. Tatiliniz bizimle güvende.
Kalitenin, güvenin, hızlı teslimatın adresi Ancon Furniture. Ancon Furniture ailesi olarak yeni ürünler ile hizmete devam etmekteyiz. Yeni model koltuk takımlarımız, yatak mekanizmaları bir dokunuş ile açılıp bir dokunuş ile kapanabilmektedir. Bir dokunuş ile açtığımız yatak mekanizmasının yatak çarşafı kullanıma hazır, serili olarak içinden çıkmaktadır. Yıl sonuna kadar herhangi bir koltuk takımı alan her müşterimize akıllı sehpa hediyemizdir. En iyi ürün, en iyi fiyat. Sadece Ancon Furniture'da. Bize uğramadan karar vermeyin. En iyisini biz yapana kadar daha iyisi yok.
Hello and welcome everyone to this brand new show, New Perspectives, with me, your host, Ertan Karpazli. And today we have a very interesting and unique program, perhaps a groundbreaking program about a subject that has rarely been covered. We are today talking about the forgotten and unknown Turkish Cypriot community in Palestine. Yes, it's going to be a very interesting program, which is going to feature three very special guests, starting with Ismail Veli. He is a researcher and the founder of the families of Luricina. We also have Huseyin Hussein Bakayi. He is the founder of Cyprus Islamic Association. And last but not least, we're saving the best till last, we have an actual Jordanian-Palestinian lawyer, Nariman Alnammari, who is originally a Turkish Cypriot. She has a Turkish Cypriot grandmother who was born and raised in Cyprus, married to a Palestinian back many decades ago, and moved over to Palestine. Now, one of the reasons why we are actually, or the main reason why we're doing today's show, for those of you who might not be following the current affairs, the news, is because of what is actually happening in Israel-Palestine today. Now, we do know that the conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians has been happening for a very long time now. It's been happening since 1948, when Israel declared itself as a state, and it was recognized by the UN at the expense of the Palestinian Arabs who have been living there for centuries. And since 1967, the Palestinian West Bank has been illegally occupied by Israel. Also East Jerusalem, which the Palestinians want as their capital, has been illegally annexed by Israel. And the Palestinian Gaza Strip is currently under land and naval blockade by the Israelis. So no one can get in or out of Gaza without Israeli permission. And what has triggered the latest round of violence between the Israelis and Palestinians has actually been the sanctity of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in East Jerusalem has been breached by Israeli soldiers, as it has happened many times in the past. something that regularly angers Palestinians who constantly protest for its right under international law to be respected as not only one of the world's most holiest sites, but also the third holiest site in Islam. And also recent evictions of Palestinian homeowners from the district of Sheikh Jarrah, in which Israeli Jewish settlers have been invading Palestinian homes and throwing them out onto the streets, which has been a state policy of Israel for many decades now. Now, us as Turkish Cypriots, we have had a long history, a long and shared history with the Palestinians, just as there are many Turkish Cypriots who have Palestinian origin. There are also many Palestinians today who have Turkish Cypriot origin. And just like the other Palestinians, they have been subjected to the same war crimes and breaches of international law by the Israelis. Many of them have winded up as refugees in countries like Jordan. Many of them have lost their homes. And one such example is our very special guest tonight, Nariman, who joins us all the way from Jordan. So, Nariman, could you please just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background as a Turkish Cypriot Palestinian? I think we're having
Good evening.
some connection problems with Nariman's mic. Nariman, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Greetings for all and everyone,
Okay.
everywhere. I am
Thank you, Nariman,
Nariman.
for joining us.
Thank you. I'm Nariman Alnammari. I am attorney and family law from Jordan. I'm Jordanian-Palestinian. My family forced to leave their home from Palestine, Jerusalem, in 1948, and we came for 3 days to Jordan, Amman, and they solved their problems. And until see for 73 years, and now nothing being solved. We lose our lands. We were living in Jerusalem. We have around 1,000 dun in Jerusalem, in Bakayi, in Sheikh Jarrah, in Wadi al-Joz. We have full neighborhood. Its name Namamra, Har Namamra, Jerusalem. We have all the documents with us, Kushans, for this land, and we are living now in Jordan. We were thanks our King, His Majesty Abdullah, for his supporting the Palestinian. He gave us homes, he gave us work, nationality, everything we need. Even he's supporting the Palestinian people until now. They can, Palestinian who lives in Palestine, come to Jordan and have a temporary passport, Jordanian passport, for 2 years for traveling. What else I can say? We have Palestine suffer too much from the attack now. A long time ago also. My origin is Turkish Cypriot. My grandmother, she was living in Nicosia, and she traveled, married my grandfather, and moved to Jerusalem and stayed with her from 1932 until 1948. She moved to Amman, Jordan, and she passed away in 1981. I've tried to contact and search her family in Cyprus. I've tried to Cyprus in 19...
Okay, Nariman.
Okay.
Your sound quality is not the best, but I have understood what you're saying. So just for the viewers who are struggling to listen, I just want to summarize what Nariman has told us. Now, Nariman is a Palestinian Jordanian citizen. whose grandmother was a Turkish Cypriot. Her grandmother was born in Cyprus in Lefkoşa, Nicosia, 1932, and she moved to Palestine with her husband, her Palestinian husband, and lived there until 1948 when the State of Israel was declared, and the Israelis forced the family to leave their homes in Jerusalem. They had 100,000 dunams in Jerusalem, and they moved to Jordan, where our guest Nariman was born, and she has been living her life in Jordan as a Jordanian citizen. And now Nariman is trying to get in touch with her family, her relatives in Cyprus, and she has the document for her grandmother, the marriage certificate document from 1932. So please, Nariman, can you explain to us what difficulties have you had while trying to get your documents from North Cyprus and find your relatives there?
I've tried to search her family, relatives from Cyprus, but I put searching in Facebook, in news, like now also on TV. Nothing I've got. I fly, like I told you, to Cyprus in 2019, and I try to I go to the Fus department. I tried to have her marriage certificate, her records. We didn't find anything. I have whole documents for her. I have marriage certificate issued in 1932. It's written in Osmani language, old language. I renew it, like I told you, in 2019 from the family court, a new marriage certificate with her details. I have from Jordan. I make cases to take her legal paper, birth certificates, family records, family tree. Even I have exception from a law from Jordan government. I get birth certificate for her, depends on her certificate information. I also search in Girna for her grandmother father, Darwish Ali. By the way, my grandmother named Nadir Darwish Ali Gululer. We found her grandmother father military archive birth paper, legal one, stamped signature. It's written his name Darwish Ali. address full address نيكوسية القلعة تحت القلعة مهلتي ترشي ستريت building number 15. His born in 1873. His religion Islam. I took all this documentary and put the Nefus department order to applying their nationality. I was too much hard. Couldn't find her family, her relatives. We asked her to give us a record. She complained that they didn't have her record. They make us difficulty. We have now been 2 years waiting, applying for nationality. We didn't get yes or refused, rejected until now. I tried to email President Erdogan. I tried to email Qatar, Kudurat. I even now I put my application for nationality for in president terror amnesty. اللهم صل محمد كتب مستشار office. The whole file, it's in his office. I'm trying to have excellent from the law. I have every single legal
Nariman,
paper.
can I just summarize what you've just told us? Because again, we're having some connection problems at your end, and that's the reason why Nariman is actually just joining us with via audio today, because the internet in Jordan isn't so great. So I just want to summarize what she's told us before we ask her to continue. Nariman has actually found the name of her grandmother, her Turkish Cypriot grandmother, which was Dervish Ali. And not only that, but she also found the name and birth certificate of her great-grandfather, whose name was, I think it was Ali.
Darwish Ali. Darwish Ali Gululer.
Okay, so your grandmother's name was Nadir Ali, pardon me, and your great-grandfather's name was Dervish Ali, who was born in 1873. So this was
Yes.
during the Ottoman times. So that means that all of the documents you have are written in the Ottoman Turkish language, which obviously uses Arabic script, which we don't use in Cyprus or in Turkey anymore. So you've got these documents, these official Ottoman era documents, and you've taken them. You've actually visited North Cyprus, and you've gone to what we call the Nüfus Dairesi, and you've presented these documents. And the Nüfus Dairesi told you that they couldn't find the documents in their records. Is that correct?
Yes. And not this. The Nufus department there, she told us she don't have, grandmother don't have records because of the birth. It's happened in 74. So why you ask me to bring a birth certificate for my grandmother? Why you don't have her records? You don't have. And if population
So the Nüfus
didn't have.
Dairesi in North Cyprus, the Nüfus Dairesi in North Cyprus is saying that they can't give you a birth certificate for your grandmother who was born in Cyprus. But you also said that it's kind of ironic because in Jordan they were able to do it for you, but how comes they couldn't do it in Cyprus where she was born?
I don't know. Really, no. It's here we have a law. You can have procedures. You can make it. Every law in any country, British law or French law or Arab world law, if you have a case, you have your witness, and you can apply for a case, and you can, with your witness and your proof paper evidence, you can win the case. From Jordan, they gave me every single legal paper because my grandmother was living here and she was in Jordan. And you in Cyprus, her country, they didn't give me any paper. Why? They tell me she shouldn't have records. We also won't have records. But she stay in Jordan, and she stay in Jordan, and she passed in Jordan. She for 40 years here. They give me everything. And now you ask me a bit. I have every single legal paper like I told you. You want only the birth certificate, a Turkish birth certificate. Even, listen to me, even I've gone, I put a researcher in my archive in Ankara to try to find her birth certificate, my grandma's certificate. It's her country, it's her people, it's her government.
That's really ironic. Again, I have to keep updating the audience about what you're saying because we are having some connection problems. Luckily, I've been lucky enough to speak to Nariman before the show, and she told me her story. So I have a lot of it in my memory. So for those of you who are struggling to keep up because of the connection, I can keep updating you. So it's really ironic that Nariman's grandmother, Nadire, who was born in Cyprus, obviously she's passed away now. She passed away in 1981. But despite having the Ottoman era birth certificate and marriage certificate for her grandmother, who we showed on screen earlier, the Nüfus Dairesi in North Cyprus is not able to issue a modern day birth certificate and allow Nariman to get her citizenship, which really should be her legal right. Yet in Jordan, where her grandmother passed away but was not born there, in Jordan she was able to obtain a birth certificate. At the same time, this is the same legal procedure that exists in all countries, not just in Jordan, but in all countries, where people who are not born in a particular country can obtain a modern and updated version of a birth certificate. Yet in North Cyprus, there doesn't seem to be this procedure in place, which is making it very difficult for people like Nariman, Palestinians who are of Turkish Cypriot origin, who only have the Ottoman copies of the birth certificates in their hand, to actually obtain their rights as Turkish Cypriot citizens. And you said, Nariman, you said that you sent emails to President Erdogan in Turkey. You said you sent emails to President Tatar in North Cyprus, also the former Foreign Minister Kudret Özersay. Did you receive any response for these emails?
Nothing. And even I try now, like I told you, to go to Kotlo. I have a friend in Cyprus who presented me with my paper and my file and my application. He go to Kotlo office. He offer him. He asked him a whole situation. You are as a poor person. You can give me exception from the law. I have everything legal paper with me. Only the birth certificate you don't have. Your government don't have. You can give me exception for the law. Give me applying for confirmation for applying for the nationality. And 3 months and a half we are running after him. And now we have 1 month and a half. We are waiting to see my file in his Mustashar play office. And the difficulty, it was from, like I told you, from Nufus Department, especially in here. يعني even I've seen if there's some heating for Arab world, is there something wrong?
Nariman, what you're saying is, sorry, I have to keep cutting you off because of the connection, but what you're saying is that you've emailed. Obviously, there is a problem with the law in North Cyprus, is what you're saying, because the law does not provide some kind of road for people in your situation to obtain their documents legally, and you've tried to email your complaints to the relevant ministers and ministries and explain to them your situation in the hope that you would get some kind of reply or some kind of alternative way of obtaining your legal rights. But you've not received any response from them, unfortunately. And you would really like for the Turkish Cypriot government in North Cyprus to perhaps look into a way to reform some of their laws in order to open that road for people like yourself to obtain their rights. And obviously you are a family lawyer, so you know about how to do these things. So perhaps you could even offer your advice to the Turkish Cypriot government on how they could do this.
Sorry, the voice, there is no signal.
Oh, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
The question, yes, what a question?
Yes, so I mean, you are a family lawyer, so you yourself, you could even offer your services to the Turkish Cypriot government as an advisor on how to help people like yourself. But I remember in my experience, before I came across your story, Nariman, I remember coming across other Palestinians of Turkish Cypriot origin who managed to get TRNC citizenship. In fact, I remember doing military service with 2 Palestinian brothers who got it because their grandmother was Turkish Cypriot. So, but they told me that the way that they did it was they made friends, very powerful friends in Turkey, in Ankara. So it seems that there are ways of getting the citizenship, but you need to know the right people. So have you heard of a few success stories? Have you heard of a few people like yourself who managed to get the citizenship?
What I've learned from 2 years suffering to have my grandma nationality, that usually they go for, it's not legal way, I'm sure. They go to the Greek side and they bring some fake birth certificate. And because of the connection between the 2 sides, and they can't return back to the Greek side to know if is it fake or no. Usually, I refuse to use this way for sure, because I'm a lawyer. I only make straight legally procedures on. But sometimes you have, like I told you, they go who have relatives. They go to the court. They have a witness that they are our family relative, and they give them the nationality. And if every person he have a birth certificate from a year long time ago, he can get a nationality. Yani I have learned the whole procedures to bring this nationality. My problem, me else, that I don't have a birth certificate, Turkish birth certificate. They want. If there's born in 74 and they don't have records, Tell me how these people before 74 will get their birth certificate, the grandma. Tell me how.
Yes, yes, this is a very valid point that you've raised. You're basically mentioning that those who were born before 1974, and I think it would be more correct to say those who were born before, let's say, the 1940s, before North Cyprus switched from the Arabic Ottoman script to the Latin script that we use today. There seems to be a lot of work and a lot of documents that have been lost in translation during that transition from the Ottoman alphabet to the modern Latin alphabet, which shouldn't actually be the case, because at the end of the day, this is legal documents pertaining to the rights of your citizens. So there has been a problem in that what you're saying is, because there is no legal way, because the TRNC North Cyprus government is not providing a legal way to help people like yourself, some people have no choice but to take an illegal way. And I remember you told me in the previous conversation that some Palestinians of Turkish Cypriot origin are resorting to paying bribes to corrupt individuals on the Greek side to obtain fake documents.
Yes.
And then they take these fake documents to North Cyprus
Yes.
to
Yes.
trick the
Yes.
government into giving. But they shouldn't need to do this, because they should have legal rights already. You're saying that you refuse to do these things in the illegal way because you feel that there should be no need, and you feel that it doesn't suit you, your reputation as a lawyer to resort to these measures. So we need really reform.
Yes, I've been
Yes, please,
5 years I have been 5 years in Jordan making cases to have every legal paper for my grandma. I put her name, her family name. I told you I bring her. I have been to taken her family name Gululer. It was written in Jordan. Her family name is Cyprus. Kursi. It's in Arabic. It's Cyprus. All the records, it was written 3 names or 2 names. Now the new law, we have 4 names: your name, father name, grandfather name, and family name. So I have been 1.5 years making a case, suing department knows. It's usually it's one to change her family name for 1.5 years to having from Kubrusi to Guller, her name. So you want me, after 5 years suffering from suing and taking casing family case, and then later on, because I cannot take my family, her nationality, to go make some fake birth certificate from the Greek side, I refuse it. You can make a new a law from court. Every person, people have legal paper and or some relatives from the court, we can get our right from the court. It's good. It could be.
Of course. These are all very good points. And again, as I mentioned before, there has been a problem with the fact that there's been a transition from Arabic script to Turkish script in North Cyprus, because obviously, when at the time that your grandmother was born, everything was written in the Arabic script. But then when Turkey and North Cyprus adopted a Latin script, things started being spelt in certain ways. And in the Arab world, wherever the Latin script was used, it might be the same name, but it's spelt in a different way. So, for example, Güller has become Gullar, for example.
Yes,
and it's causing the unnecessary problems. So really what I think we need to do is we need to start, we need more people who can read and understand the Ottoman script. And I believe there are a lot of people, Turkish Cypriots, who work for the FCA that have this ability. I know a few of them myself personally. They might be able to help. And also, we need to petition the government in North Cyprus to change the law, to reform the law, to give people like you a legal way to get their rights. And perhaps one way of doing this would be to gather people like yourself, Palestinians of Turkish Cypriot origin, and form some kind of non-governmental organization, some kind of group that can petition the North Cyprus government. And you can do this with the help of Turkish Cypriots, regular Turkish Cypriots living in North Cyprus. And I'd like to remind the viewers that this issue that Nariman is having, and this issue that the Palestinians of Turkish Cypriot origin are having, is not unique, is not exclusive to them. There are Turkish Cypriots, maybe 1 million Turkish Cypriots all over the world, and the majority of us live outside of Cyprus. The majority of us are born and raised outside of Cyprus for 3 or 4 generations now. So the problem that Nariman is experiencing can also happen to us, can also happen to our children who are born in England, Australia, Canada. So there is a problem with the law in TRNC, so that we need to reform this, not just for the Palestinians, but also for ourselves as a diaspora. So when we're helping people like Nariman, we are also helping ourselves as well. So perhaps this is something that we should do as a community, and lobby for the TRNC to start recognizing its own citizens. Nariman, you've explained a lot. I just want to ask you 2 more things before we bring in our other guests, Huseyin and Ismail. You told me in a previous conversation that some Turkish Cypriots in Cyprus have criticized you for trying to claim your right as a Turkish Cypriot. What have people said, and what do you answer to those people?
When I search in Facebook groups for my grandma relatives and my story, they begin to say, you are running for her nationality, you are running for her wealth, her lands. It's my right. It's my grandma. يعني, it's not your problem, it's my problem. My grandma was family Ghawat, and my grandfather, I told you, he was Effendi. My great-grandfather, Namari, he was a governor in Osmani period time for Diyarbakir and Al-Mosul in Iraq. We have already 1,000 dunum in Jerusalem. We have literally, for 1 month, offered for our land $150 million to save our land. It's our treasure. We are not using that Arab, they are poor, or they're running for something for money. No. Alhamdulillah, we are rich. We are running for her family. I told you before in our government conversation. I fly to Cyprus. I in Bafos and I stay in Limassol, and every single day I pass from the border from Limassol to Nicosia. Every single day I pass across the border to the north side. My heart was pumping happiness that I smell my grandma home, my grandma people, my grandma land, my grandma country. And you say to me, you are running for her nationality? No, you don't know my heart, my feeling. You don't know how much I suffer. Also, they said in my family, I look like her, similar, too much for her. And I know for her die, she was in love to go to Cyprus to meet her family. But she was sick, she couldn't. So when I grow up, and if they keep taking to me, say to me, you look like you are like Naira, same face, same everything. I make it my mission. I want to travel to find her family, to meet her family, find her relatives, to tell her we are her grandchildren. We are family.
Yes, and
she suffered.
You're right. It's your right as a Turkish Cypriot. You know, you're just a Turkish Cypriot who wants to go to Cyprus, the homeland, the birthplace of her grandma, and meet her relatives. And so you're saying that, unfortunately, and I'm very ashamed of this as a Turkish Cypriot myself, I'm very ashamed that you've had to experience this, that some Turkish Cypriots on social media are accusing you and people like you of wanting to come to North Cyprus to claim citizenship and inheritance and money and things like this. But you're saying that no, you have no need to do such a thing. You have all this land in Jerusalem which I think you said to me in the previous conversation was worth $100,000 or something like that, or was it even more?
$150 million.
Wow, $150 million in Jerusalem, which is the capital of the world.
Yes.
Really. It's the heart of the world. So someone like you, really, you have more to offer North Cyprus financially than to take. You could come to North Cyprus, you can open businesses, buy property. There is so much that
Yes.
you can do, and there's many more like you, isn't there? How many do you think there are that are like you?
Yes, 20. يعني I want her nationality, to get a nationality, buy apartment, to open a new business for my children, to stay, to see this is my grandma home, her country, her relatives. يعني I am too much يعني wanted to find also her relatives. I don't know how, when, or I can find them or no, but I'm trying my best to find her relatives, having her nationality, find her words. Maybe it's the opposite what we think. Maybe we have a wealth and we want to live with her family. It couldn't be.
So Nariman, how many Palestinians of Turkish Cypriot origin are there in your estimate?
Palestinian, Jordanian have plenty from Jordanian, from Palestinian, from Lebanon, from Egypt. They have plenty British, Turkish Cypriot origin. It's not only me. يعني you can say 30% from every country. I think Palestine 30%, Jordan 30%, Lebanon same, Egypt same. They call me from Lebanon, from Egypt, from Palestine. Consult them how to make the procedures, how to apply for the nationality, what's the paper you have, what's your experience, what you have done, what we can do. They always call me. I don't know my number really, yani. But what from my experience, I try to guide them to do the right things. How to apply for the nationality, Turkish nationality. Even if they take
there are many. You're estimating that perhaps 30% of Palestinians have some kind of Turkish Cypriot ancestor, and that's actually in line with something that another Palestinian friend told me of Turkish Cypriot origin. He told me that around 30, he knows about 30 Turkish Cypriot families in Gaza alone. And what's interesting about his story is that Turkish aid workers went to Gaza to deliver aid while Israel was bombing the enclave. And while the Turkish aid workers were there, they found him and he started speaking to them in Turkish with a Cypriot accent. And then they said to him, wow, how did you learn Turkish? And he explained to them that his grandmother was a Turkish Cypriot. And from there, they brought him to Turkey and they helped him to get his North Cyprus citizenship in the end. I have one last question for you, Nariman. One last question before I ask the others. What do you hope for the future for people like you? What do you hope will change to help people like you?
I hope to change their Cyprus law, to give Turkish Cypriot origin rights. That's it. That's what I want. Give us our rights. That's
Yes, so you've all heard it from Nariman directly. She is a Turkish Cypriot Palestinian who is simply asking the North Cyprus government to give her and people like her their rights. So thank you, Nariman. It's an amazing story. And I'd also like to thank Ismail Veli, who I'm bringing into the program now. Ismail Veli is the one who really raised awareness of Nariman's story in the Turkish Cypriot community. Nariman contacted you, didn't she? So can you tell me very quickly, how did Nariman contact you and how did you react to
She actually noticed an Ottoman document, I believe, of a census that I found of my village, and she contacted me if there was any possibility of me helping her locate her grandmother's birth certificate as a result of the Ottoman documents that I was sharing with our community. And I tried my best. And I'm going to actually add on a little bit to what she said, because I really feel for her. And this is for the second and third generation diaspora, as you rightly pointed earlier, is all over the world. And I was absolutely flabbergasted that after 3 months of waiting, the reason given to me over the phone by the authorities was that, you know, they did not know why she wanted this birth certificate other than the fact that she wanted to get citizenship. And they asked me if I know the reason why. I said that's that's her right. Her grandmother was Turkish Cypriot. My grandchildren are Turkish Cypriot, second generation, third generation from my wife's side. Disenfranchising these people is not really an option for our state, for the reason that nobody really recognizes us. And if we are going to disenfranchise our second and third generation grandchildren and Turkish Cypriots, then what is the future for us? And I really feel that this is something that needs to be remedied as soon as possible, because if you go to the National Archives in one of the most richest countries in the world, like the UK, the most ardent criminal cases are opened after 100 years, and national security documents are usually open after 30, 40, 50 years. And to tell Nariman that after 110 years of the birth of her grandmother, which is not a national security issue, so that she cannot have this because they suspect that she's going to use that to get a citizenship, is just beyond belief. It is absolutely beyond. It's really telling these people, you are no longer Turkish Cypriots, we don't want you. Well, my son is obligated to do his national service, even though he's second generation from my wife's side in the UK. But if he goes to Cyprus, he cannot get my birth certificate. My grandson cannot get my birth certificate, even though I've paid for my national service and my son is also obligated to do that. Where is the justice in that? We argue about human rights. This is a human rights issue as well. And I believe that if we are going to ask the world to recognize our human rights, it's time we started respecting the human rights of our own grandchildren who wish to have connections to their homeland. And this is where I feel for Nariman, because basically they are telling her, no, you are sahte. This is the word used. That is sahtelik, is fraudulent, because she wants to get a citizenship, and that's why she wants the birth certificate. I think she pointed it out very well. She's a lawyer in Jordan. She has massive amounts of property out there. But even if she wanted to have a citizenship and come to live in the TRNC, isn't that what we should be doing, encouraging Turkish Cypriots to invest back in our own homeland, because nobody else will do it? I don't know what else to say at this stage.
Of course, you've summed it up very well, Ismail. And thank you very much for highlighting Nariman's story to our community. And we hope that through your hard work, and not only as a go-to point man for people like Nariman, but also in your research of Turkish Cypriot families, that we can identify gaps in those family trees. We all have them, especially those of us who come from Karpaz and Maosa, of entire generations that have just moved on to the Middle East, as Nariman pointed out, not just Palestine, but also Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt. And we can actually build bridges with these people who can actually come to North Cyprus and invest and rejuvenate our economy. And Huseyin Hoca, I know you've been sitting there silently for a very long time now. But in the years that I've known you, you've told me many stories of Turkish Cypriots who you know of personally that have gone over to Palestine and Jordan. Your relatives and perhaps even some of my relatives included. Could you perhaps enlighten us on regarding some other cases that you're aware of?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. I'm very passionate about this topic, and just for our viewers, it's not as dark as it looks. There are a lot of Palestinian people who have Turkish Cypriot origins who have found family members, have become citizens, and have actually helped in building the economy of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus by purchasing properties, opening businesses. I know lots of people in and around Lefkoşa and also other cities that have made massive investments. And it's really the duty of the Turkish Cypriot officials to reach out to these people. Before I actually came on today, I was just thinking that in any books that we read in the last 15 or 20 years that talks about the diaspora of Turkish Cypriots, one country that's never mentioned is Palestine. So they tell you we have about 500,000 Turks living in, or sometimes they extravagate the numbers to like 2 million Turkish Cypriots in Turkey. I'm being sarcastic now, by the way. And then you have like 300,000 or 500,000 in London or the UK, and so many in Australia. And there's a community that's been forgotten, and that's the Turkish Cypriot people, or the Palestinians who have Turkish Cypriot ancestry. It's so sad that the only book that I found them mentioned in was a rough guide to Cyprus book, a tour book, that had a small volume at the back of the book that spoke about Afro-Cypriots and the Palestinian Turkish Cypriots that came from a travel journal, nothing from the government. So I think it's important that the Turkish Cypriot officials, many of them I'm sure, who have relatives in Palestine or Jordan. Nariman is correct by saying that it's not only specifically Palestine that Turkish Cypriot women married into. They married into nearby countries. That time, the borders were very different. Jordan was the Trans-Jordanian. Egypt was also part of this country, Syria. So we have lots of Turkish Cypriots who are now living in Syria. I met some Turkish Cypriot families in Damascus, in Halep, in Lazkiye. There's lots of Turkish Cypriot families that were living in Haifa before 1948, Jerusalem, hundreds of Turkish Cypriot families. I mean, the estimates, and this would need to be researched properly in British documents, because we have to remember that these women married in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. This was when Cyprus was being administrated by Britain, and they hold the records. And these records are available in Cyprus. But from my research, I found out that as many as 5,000 to 7,000 people, some put the estimates at 10,000 people, for a population at that time of 90,000. That's a lot of people. So we have probably more Palestinians living in Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Kuwait, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, of Turkish Cypriot origin who are Palestinian. They're probably more than the Turkish Cypriots living in Australia today. And it's really important that we accept this. Yeah, and we need to really connect with these people. And the best thing that I would suggest to Nariman, yes, it's 100% her right to have citizenship. We have people that just come to Cyprus who have no connection to North Cyprus, buy a house or an apartment, and they're given citizenships. Russians are given citizenships. And we need to make that connection. I'm sure Nariman knows that the royal family of Jordan have Turkish Cypriot connection. They are Turkish Cypriot in origin. Their grandmother is Turkish Cypriot. And there's lots of royal families or dynasties throughout the Middle East. King Farouk of Egypt had a Turkish Cypriot grandmother. And we need to connect with these people. They have the right, the full right, just as we do, just as Ismail Abi said, that our children and our children's children will have the right to live in North Cyprus or Southern Cyprus, because it's an obligation of both parts of Cyprus, Greek and Turkish, to recognize these people as native Cypriots.
Yes, thank you very much, Huseyin Hoca. That's very informative. And it seems we're getting close to the end of the show now, but I believe that you have so much more that you can contribute to this topic that we may have to do a part 2 of this conversation. So I'll be in touch with you about that. And you did mention that perhaps around 10,000 Turkish Cypriots left from Cyprus. That will be about 1 in 9 Turkish Cypriots left from Cyprus and went to Palestine during the Ottoman times and the British era. And if we can imagine that each of them had, on average, about 10 grandchildren, we could be talking of a diaspora, Turkish Cypriot diaspora in Palestine of around 100,000 people. Of course, these are all estimates, and we need more research on this. And with that, I'd like to just kind of wind the program down a little bit. So I'd like to thank, first of all, the star of the show, Nariman, for coming on and telling us her story as a Palestinian Jordanian of Turkish Cypriot origin. I'd also like to thank Ismail Veli for informing us of this story and keeping Nariman's story alive for I think it's been a number of years now, and bringing it to our attention. And I'd also like to thank Huseyin for joining us, taking the time out of his busy schedule to talk to us about this issue. And we can only end this program really by praying that the lands of Palestine, which is today occupied by Israel, can once again see the peace that it once saw under the Ottomans, when Muslims and Christians and Jews all lived together side by side, much like they did peacefully throughout most of the empire, including Cyprus. And we can only call out to the Turkish Cypriot government in North Cyprus to watch this program and hopefully start a conversation about how they can help probably the second largest Turkish Cypriot diaspora after the UK that live outside of Cyprus. And with that, I'd like to close the program with a video of Ottoman era Jerusalem from the year 1917. And this video contains clips taken from Ottoman era Jerusalem just a few months before the land of Palestine fell out of the control of the Ottoman Empire and fell under the control of the British. So thank you all to my guests once again. And with that, I'd like to share this video with you and close the program. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we can see you all again for part 2 of this show.